Metropolis. Now, this is a film that's been lauded as one of the all-time greats of early cinema. And you know what? It's earned that reputation. For the most part, directed by Fritz Lang, it's basically a science fiction fever dream wrapped up in a massive slab of German expressionism. The scale, the ambition, the sheer visual spectacle, no one had ever seen anything like this before. And in a lot of ways, it's still impressive today. But let's not kid ourselves, this film is also one big, heavy-handed allegory that sometimes feels like it's trying to smack you over the head with its message until you black out. Let's talk about the visuals first, because honestly that's where Metropolis shines the brightest. The cityscape, utterly iconic, the towering skyscrapers, the labyrinth streets, the cold, mechanical underworld. It's dystopian sci-fi world building at its finest. It's impossible not to appreciate the craftsmanship that went into building this massive, oppressive city. The film's art direction and set designs are off the charts. Fritz Lang practically invented the look and feel of futuristic dystopias with his movie. Every modern sci-fi flick owes a debt to Metropolis in one way or another. Then there's the famous robot Maria, one of the most iconic images in film history. The transformation scene where Maria turns from human to machine is still mind-blowing, even by today's standards. You can see echoes of this in everything from Star Wars to Blade Runner, and that's the thing about Metropolis. It's laid the foundation for every dystopian cyberpunk nightmare to come. Visually, it's a masterpiece, no question. But let's not get too carried away with the praise, because when you start peeling back the layers of this shiny, futuristic veneer, you realize that the film is bogged down by a plot that's more convoluted than it needs to be. The story is essentially about a massive divide between the wealthy elite who live in luxury and the poor workers slaving away in the depths of the city. And the moral? Well, it's as subtle as a brick to the face. The mediator between the head and the hands must be the heart, right? Don't get me wrong, the message is fine. Class struggle, the dangers of unchecked capitalism, the need for compassion and unity, that's all well and good. But Metropolis doesn't exactly handle these themes with finesse. It's melodramatic to the point of absurdity, with the acting cranked up to the levels that make The Lost World look restrained. There are scenes where characters are throwing their hands to the heavens, weeping, screaming. It's all so overblown that you can't help but laugh at the points. The pacing, all over 2 hours, it drags hard in places. Scenes go on way longer than they need to, and the constant moralizing can get a bit tedious. Look, I get it, Fritz Lang was making a point, but there's only so many times you can watch downtrodden workers shuffle around looking miserable before you start checking your watch. That said, there are some genuinely thrilling sequences, like the flooding of the workers' city. It's a chaotic, visually stunning set piece, and you can see how much influence it's had on films that came later. The clash of man and machine is front and center here, and for a silent film from 1927, it's still pretty exciting. So where does that leave us with Metropolis? Well, it's undoubtedly a pioneering work of science fiction and one of the most important films ever made. It's a towering achievement in terms of design, visual effects and ambition, but let's be honest, it's also a bit of a slog. The plot is heavy-handed, the acting is way over the top, and the pacing could use some serious tightening. Final verdict, if you're a film buff or a sci-fi fan, Metropolis is a required viewing. It's one of those movies you have to see at least once to understand where modern cinema came from. Just be prepared for a bit of a melodramatic overkill and some preachy moments along the way. It's a classic for a reason. Thanks for watching. If you thought the first blockbuster sci-fi film was interesting, then you're going to want to see what dinosaurs looked like in 1925. Spielberg, eat your heart out. Hit that notification button, and you keep in touch with yourselves. Later.